Hey guys, what's going on? FalconePunch 55 back once again, and today I'm just going to bring you the next set of mean streets of Gadgetzan cards that have been announced. That's right, I got the name right this time. This is going to be much less rushed. I'm much less hyper than I was last time, as the expansion had just been announced then. So I'm just going to give you an as objective view of these cards as possible. Accompanying the review today, as you can see on the side, there is a hype meter. Pretty simple stuff there. The higher the bar, the more hype I am for the card, and basically the more I think it's going to see play. Is it the new Yogg Saron, or is it Pompous Thespian? Alright, without further ado, let's begin. So we'll start with Dispatch Kodo, and I think this card is pretty cool. I'm not sure how strong it is. Again, looking at Hunters as they are at the moment, very aggressive, very mid-rangey. A 2-mana 2/4 doesn't seem great. Then again, it's going to be dealing at least 2 damage with its battle cry. So when you weigh it up stat-wise, I guess you could say it's maybe a little bit better than Disciple of Cthulhu. Then again, it's also more expensive. But I think the most important thing about this card is the fact that it's probably not going to be a 2/4. And it's probably not only going to deal 2 damage. I mean, maybe it will, but also maybe it won't. And I genuinely think it's hard to assess how good this card's going to be until we've seen the entire set. If Hunter get a whole ton of cards that buff each other when they're still in the hand, and as a result, like a whole archetype gets made out of it, then this card could be really, really good. So while this card on its own doesn't get me too excited, I think that the inclusion of a lot of other cards that could buff this card in the hand, that's what's going to get me excited. So let's look at Trogg Beast Rager. Oh, we love our Trogs in Hearthstone, don't we? A 2-mana 3/2, it's fine. It's typically what a Hunter wants to play on turn 2, whether it's a huge Toad or a King's Elect or this. And I think the upside is pretty huge here. Hunters almost always have a beast. The card we were just looking at is a beast. They always have a beast in their hand, and this card will almost always see value. I think it's great, right? Yes, the word random is there. That's a little bit of a shame. If you have multiple beasts, you might end up not buffing the one you want, but then again, is it ever going to be a bad thing? I don't think so. So yeah, this is the type of card that makes me really excited. This mechanic does seem to be spreading its wings a little bit, and I'm really excited to see if it becomes a major part of Hearthstone in the future. I think this card will see play. Again, assuming there are enough other cards to make this type of thing good, I think this card will see play. Oh, and look at this, Shaky Zip Runner. Another card. This one's giving you a random minion rather than a random beast, so 3-mana 3/3. Gains 2/2 though, that's pretty crazy stat boost. If you want to be really awkward and do the maths, this is kind of a 3-mana 5/5, but it's really not, so don't look at it that way. But you can see, I can see how you'd compare it. I mean, you use this, it hits the Dispatch Kodo. The Dispatch Kodo is then dealing 4 damage, and it's a 4/6 for 4 mana. That's pretty great. Again, I think these cards are good enough to see play, but I'm not completely certain about it. And next up, we have the Warrior Paladin Hunter card, Grime Street Smuggler. 3-mana 2/4, and it's going to be giving a random minion in your hand 1/1. So it's so difficult to assess this because you have to kind of look at every Warrior and Hunter and Paladin card. I mean, just imagine this on the new Paladin Legendary, for example. That's pretty crazy. So far, I don't think these multi-class cards have been that overwhelming, apart from Kazakus, and I don't know, like, it's so difficult to judge. You kind of have to look at it more like a basic card than a class card, or a neutral card than a class card, because it's so widespread. I guess its effect is just very specific. This is something they only want Warriors, Paladins, and Hunters to have, and as a game mechanic, I love that. Whether this card is good enough, I mean, if you've got the Hunter deck that's buffing stuff in the hand, maybe there's already better options. Kind of already want to go back and reassess Dispatch Kodo now. That card's suddenly looking really, really strong. We're going to jump forward to Paladin, and we've got Grime Street Enforcer. It's the new Emperor Thorisan, but not really. Is this effect strong enough? It's so difficult to say. Because you know what effect isn't strong enough? The Mistcaller. That guy never saw any play. And I think it's so hard to judge. If this guy stays on the board and keeps proccing, then you just win the game. But when does a 4/4 ever stay on the board and keep proccing like that? The fact that you can run 2 of them is pretty crazy as well. Again, it doesn't fit in any Paladin deck that we have at the moment, but the more I look at these cards, the more I think it's pretty clear we're going to be getting a ton of new archetypes, and that's exciting. It's not quite Emperor Thurasan, but it's also not quite the Mistcaller. For a start, it's 1 mana cheaper, that's probably a big deal. The Mistcaller was a big tempo loss on the turn you played it, and as a shaman, it was hard to recover from that. Maybe if you can follow this up with a quality Pyromancer, then it's awesome. I don't know. I think it's okay. And generally, okay means not good enough, by the way. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say all of the cards are really bad, but even the cards that are okay currently, like Shattered Sun Cleric, don't see play. Grove Street Outfitter, a 2 mana 1/1. Oh, right, this effect. I'm kind of talking about the same thing over and over again. So it's the same, but it only procs once. If you've got Bran, it procs twice. It's like the Mistcaller, but everything in your hand, not everything in your hand and deck. 2 mana 1/1 is pretty weak, but it's not, like, unthinkably bad. Now, the problem is, on 2 mana, you probably want to play a decent minion. You want to play a huge Toad, you want to play a shielded Minibot or a Knife Juggler, something that's actually a threat. And this isn't. The problem is, if you're running the type of deck where the individual stats matter, it's probably mid-rangey or tempo-y. And if you're running a mid-rangey or tempo-y deck, can you afford to play a 1/1 on turn 2? That's where I struggle with this card a little bit. Again, from what I can see, I don't think this card is good. Sorry, Grime Street. The same kind of goes for the previous one. Moving on, we have Worse Undercity Huckster. That's pretty much all I have to say about Shaku the Collector. It's got 1 additional health and stealth. 3 mana 2/3 with stealth on its own isn't good enough. Add in the fact that every time it attacks, you get to add a random card to your hand. I mean, Huckster, you're guaranteed a random card, and it's a 2 mana 2/2. It's better. This guy, you're guaranteed to add a card to your hand, but then it will almost always die. You're never going to get to add 2 cards with this, unless you get really lucky somehow or conceal it again, but then you're wasting conceal on a bad minion. This card's just not good enough. It's at the moment, unless they release something else that makes this card insane, which I don't think is going to happen, Undercity Huckster is far better. Disappointing. Ali Armorsmith, wow. Okay, so the thing is, you gotta let the Justicar and Bash, etc. are gonna be rotating out soon. Like Shield Maiden's gone. Warrior needs some sort of armor gain, so this guy is okay, right? And like the fact that it's Warrior, which means it does run some of those Grime Street cards, the ones that buff cards in your hand. Plus there are other methods for buffing this card as well now. This could actually gain you a lot of armor. It's got 7 health. Problem is, 2/7 for 5 mana doesn't seem good enough, but I guess if it's getting buffed in your hand, it might be good enough. In fact, I'm certain this card will see play at some point or another. Maybe it won't be straight away, but when the right combination of cards come out over the course of the next year, this card is going to be really strong. It's killer against aggro, especially as it's got Taunt as well. I personally, I like this card a lot. This is the kind of design I like to see. Very, very specific usage. I'm looking forward to playing this one. Grime Street Pawnbroker. We're going to be buffing weapons as well as minions if we're a warrior. Give around a weapon in your hand 1/1. So it's a 3 mana 3/3, which is, you know, kind of poor stats. But you're going to be buffing a weapon 1/1 guaranteed every time you have one in your hand. Compare it to Bloodcell Cultist. The 3 mana 3/4 that buffs a weapon that you've got on the board as long as you already have it on the board and as long as you already have a pirate on the board. This card is way easier to pull off, right? You can play it before you've even played the weapon. Got an Arcanite Reaper in your hand, ready to buff for next turn? Fantastic. Play this in turn 3, it becomes a 6/3, coin it out the following turn. This card is going to be really strong in Pirate Warrior, probably even mid-rangey or temporary warriors as well. I think this card is good enough. Getting an extra attack with your Fiery War Axe is actually a big deal, and the fact that it comes with a 3/3 minion, like, guaranteed, I mean, it's not guaranteed. If you don't have a weapon in your hand, you're not going to get this, but when are you ever not going to have a weapon in your hand? I think it's pretty much guaranteed. Really strong card. Stolen Goods. Wow, they really want Bolster Warrior to be a thing before Bolster rotates out early next year, don't they? Give a random Taunt minion in your hand 3/3. 3/3 for 2 mana is not bad. Obviously, you have to have a Taunt minion. I mean, with Ali Armorsmith, this is pretty crazy, but I don't know if this card is quite good enough to run. It's a 2 mana it's a 2 mana spell that does nothing unless you meet a fairly specific condition. Maybe Taunt Warrior will be a thing. I don't see it. But like usually this card will only proc if you have Bloodproof Brave or Ali Armorsmith in your hand. That's it. And I'd say as a hunter, you're way more likely to have a beast somewhere in your hand than having a taunt as the warrior. I don't know. It just seems very, very specific a condition, and the fact that it's just nothing otherwise just kind of lowers this card in my estimation. Then again, play this on turn 2 and then coin out a Bloodhoof Brave on turn 3, then that is completely insane. You're getting a 5/9 on turn 3. Or turn 4 even. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't use the coin, this is still good. And a 5/9 on turn 3 or 4 is hard to deal with. Maybe I'm underestimating this card. It just seems too specific. It's too much of a meme, right? It's something that you'll get sometimes, rarely, and then when you don't get it, it's trash. Alright, finally, let's whiz through the neutral cards. We have a new 3-mana, 3/4 legendary. Oh, this one's gonna be good. After you cast a spell, refresh your hero power. No, this card's not good. It's not quite Gadgetzan Auctioneer, is it? Like, you play your hero power, that's 2 mana. You cast a spell, you get to play your hero power again, that's another 2 mana. Like, unless I'm getting the wrong end of the stick here, like, assuming you have to pay mana every time you get your hero power refreshed, which I'm pretty sure you do, this card's just bad because, like, you're still, your hero power has not really gotten any better. You're still paying 2 mana to possibly deal 1 damage, maybe 2 if you're a hunter. This card just doesn't seem good enough. Maybe in a really heavy control warrior, who you've got tank up going, and you know, on turn 8 you play tank up, execute, tank up, shield slam, tank up. No, this card's just not good. Dirty Rat. Now I've been complaining about Deathlord not being in the game for such a long time. And this card does seem to be Deathlord's successor. Unfortunately, I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Deathlord. You have to look at it this way, right? Deathlord, yes, it may have been 3 mana, it was a 2/8. When your opponent killed this card, they got a minion from their deck, okay? So usually their opponent would kill your card on their turn, meaning they get the minion, it can't attack yet. Comparatively, this guy, when you summon it, they get the minion from their hand. While I don't think hand is as good as deck, especially if you do play this on turn 2 when they've mulliganed away their heavy stuff and they just have lighter threats, the problem is the card they do get does have charge, technically, because it's summoned on your turn, so they can attack with it as soon as their turn rolls around. 6 health is really strong, taunt is great, it's technically good against aggro, but I think the downside is too strong for this one. I think it's much stronger than the downside was for Deathlord because the minion has charge. I'm definitely going to be trying this card out, but I think it's riskier. If your opponent does get a trash hand and gets like rag after their mulligan, then they're going to get rewarded for it possibly. I think this card's exciting, but I don't think it's very good. I wish it was good, but I don't think it's quite the Deathlord that we've all been missing. Backroom Bouncer, it's like Flesh-Eating Ghoul, but more expensive. And only gets buffed when a friendly minion dies. Yeah, let's move on. Druk Fu Master. Should have started with a neutral, shouldn't I? Because now we're just, now this is just... Worgen Greaser, 4 6/3. I mean, it's interesting stats. It's bad though. Hide Gun. Hey, this card's actually interesting. A neutral 3 mana 4/3 with taunt. Yeah, it's like strictly better than that tentacle taunt that we got previously. The 3 mana 2/4 actually could be okay. It's decent stats for a 3 mana minion. Then again, I'd rather it was a 3/4 with taunt. Like, I'd rather it was Fierce Monkey stats than Hired Gun stats. It's probably not good enough. Just more interesting than the last few we've been looking at. Trying to get the hype train going. Hey, this card's pretty hype. A new Murloc, Blue Girl Sniper. This card's actually going to be okay in Murloc decks. If a Murloc deck actually exists, then this card's probably fine, right? A 2 mana 2/1, deals the damage. I actually don't mind this. It's just Elven Archer, but slightly better for 1 more mana. But it's a Murloc, and I think the fact that it's a Murloc is the big deal. If Murloc decks ever do make a comeback, this card could be cool. And finally, Mistress of Mixtures. Some people are saying it's the new Zombie Chow. I don't think it's quite good enough. I think the difference between 2 health and 3 health is a pretty big deal when it comes to playing an early minion and wanting it to survive. Obviously, it has an upside where it's healing you as well, but if you play it on turn 1, it's not going to heal you because it's unlikely you're going to have taken damage. Might see some play in Warlock decks where you can guarantee you've taken damage before you play this card. It's definitely interesting for sure, and there will probably be like 1 or 2 decks that will try using it over the next few months. I think it will be playable in a few decks. I don't think it's like crazy powerful though. It's just interesting to tinker with. And that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed looking at the new cards. Don't forget to go and check out Hearthhead's website. Give them a like on Facebook and a follow on Twitter. Let me know if you liked the bar on the side, if you like this format. And make sure you comment with your opinions on the new cards. I really do love reading the comments and responding to them. I really enjoyed that part of making the video, so I'd love to interact with you guys. If you want to let me know your thoughts anywhere where you do agree with me or disagree with me, please let me know. But I'll catch you again for another similar video next week.